Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of our Accelerated ID series. My name is Katie Short. I'm the Director of Learning Solutions at the Instructional Design Company, and with me we have a very special guest, our fearless leader, Shawntay, and she is going to be walking you through using Trello for the purpose of project management in instructional design or as an instructional designer. And so she's going to be able to demo using Trello or a Conbon board. Awesome. Thank you so much, Katie. And again, welcome everyone to our session on using Trello to manage your instructional design projects. So we're not going to get into the nuts and bolts of project management. We're really going to focus on the usage of Trello. I like Trello very much because it is a free tool. You can have up to 10 free boards before you have to upgrade, and you can always close and open new boards. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about Trello, and then I'm going to guide you through how to use Trello. So if you have a Trello account, by all means, open it up, get it ready. If you are new to Trello and you want to create a Trello account, we're going to talk about that too, so that you can follow along. So let's get started with project management in instructional design. What is it, right? Well, as instructional designers, that's not the only hat that you wear. And if you're thinking it's the only hat that you wear, either, like you're pleasantly surprised, or you're like, well, I didn't know that. But you also wear a project management hat. And the truth is that every professional wears a project management hat to some degree. So as instructional designers, we need to manage small projects, which might be the build of just a very small singular lesson. It might be all the tasks related to a course, or it could be something more robust like a certification program or a 6 to 8 week program. Like when you're building something of that size, there could be thousands of tasks that are associated with that project. And we need some way to very easily manage all of that. You cannot possibly have like pages and pages of a running to-do list with everything there. Priorities change, focal points change. So we need a tool that allows us to make those changes very easily. And Trello is a tool that does that. There are two primary schools of thought or methodologies around project management. There is waterfall and there is agile. And whenever we're talking about a Trello board is a Kanban board, which is an agile framework. And with a Kanban board, what's cool about a Kanban board is that it allows you to very quickly visualize the status of different tasks within a project. It's visual. You open it up and you can see exactly where a task sits in your process. And I'm going to demonstrate that to you in a few minutes. So if that doesn't make sense right now, that's okay. I will show that to you in just a second. So again, I like Trello for starting off our new instructional designers because it's free. As you are learning and developing your skills as instructional designers, we want you to limit your out-of-pocket cost as much as possible. So we typically suggest starting with the tools and the free trials and things like that don't break the piggy bank. Whenever you go to work in a corporate setting, the corporation that you go to work for most likely will provide you some sort of project management tool that you can use. But if you go to work in a small organization, that might not be true. So you can take advantage of the freer tools or the free tools like Trello. Again, Trello is a tool that you can use alongside your project management or your instructional design process. You can use it to manage the build for a live course. You can use it to manage the build of instructional videos. You can use it to manage the build of e-learning courses that you build in Captivate or Articulate, Storyline 360 or Rise, whatever that is, because all of these things have very small tasks that are associated with them. You can also use it for things that happen in your personal life. I had a campaign about 1.5 years ago where I ran for commissioner for our town commission. So of course I created a Trello board where I could track all these different tasks and collaborate with the different members of the team who were assisting on my campaign. I have used it to plan vacations. I have used it for goal planning. I used to be a volunteer lead to organize and facilitate our holiday park lighting event in our park here in our town. So I used it for that and all the different volunteers that were a part of that process so that we could, collaborate online in the cloud. It made it very easy. I will show you some examples of those towards the end of the training, but I do want to get to the nuts and bolts of how to use Trello, how to set it up first. But just know that that's coming. Well, we will wrap up with that personal discussion on how you can use Trello in your personal life. In my Instructional Design and Tech Accelerator program, all of our accelerators who are enrolled in our course working on their instructional design and Storyline 360 certification use Trello, because as instructional designers, you need to be able to project manage a course. So in our certification program, they are managing all of their work, their different tasks, their exercises that they're submitting for work reviews. It gives us a place to leave feedback and collaborate, and it helps them flex that muscle as project managers. So it's pretty cool. All right, so let's get started with what Trello is. You can see an example of just my main dashboard whenever I open my Trello account. And interestingly, this Trello account that I'm showing you is a free Trello account. So you can see that I've got quite a bit going on in a free Trello account. So again, Trello is collaborative, it's cloud-based, and it allows you to visualize the status of each of the different tasks in a project. So it's collaborative in the sense of I can invite people into the board, I can tag people in a card, I can share links, they can come into a board, and you're going to get an example of that in just a second because we are going to share a link to a board with you that you can copy and use on your own. All right, so if you don't have a Trello account and you want to create one real quick, you can go to Trello.com to do that. All that you are going to need is an email address in order to create your Trello account. It's going to prompt you with some different inputs of information that it's going to want to collect from you. So you'll fill out those prompts. At some point, it will probably prompt you for the business class account or a 30-day free trial. I suggest that you skip that for now. And it's kind of sneaky, but at the very bottom of that page where it asks if you want to participate in the 30-day trial, it has start without business class at the very bottom, and it's grayed out, so it's hard to see. So it might take you a second to see that. So again, you can go to Trello.com, create that account. When it gets to the free trial page, just say start without business class, and then that will take you directly into Trello. So you can see that here at the very top, there is a menu, and I just have hovered over templates so that you could see some of the different templates that are available for free use. So you could see there's an agenda for a one-on-one meeting. You could see there's a Conbon board. You could see there's a simple project board for the teachers out there. There's a weekly planning board that you could use. I typically start from scratch because I have very specific things that I want in a board. And then once I start from scratch, then I use that board as my template board going forward that I can copy from. So I'm going to start with showing you one of our templates. We have a course, everyone's called a project manager, or everyone is a project manager. And this is just a very basic layout that we provide to our students in that course. And I'm going to walk you through what each of these columns means and some of the features that are available here in this particular board. So as I said before, Trello is a Kanban-style board. So this is a board. Some project management tools have boards like this, but they also have lists, like where it runs down almost like a doc with a listing of all the different things. And some allow you to flip-flop in between, like ClickUp allows you to look either at a list or at a board, and you can toggle back and forth depending on what your interest is. All right, so the first thing that I want to do, because this is a board that is literally used by students in our Everyone is a Project Management course, I'm going to make a copy of this because I don't want to alter this board. So I'm going to show you how to make a copy. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is go to Show Menu, and then you are going to go down to, typically what your view will be is Show Menu, click on More, and then you're going to click Copy Board. and we get to copy board, it's going to prompt you for the name of your board. So I'm just going to type in using Trello session, and then you just click create. And when you do that, now voila, I have a copy of that Trello board, right? So I always recommend naming your board something that's meaningful, that you understand what it is whenever you look at it. So you're not like going, what's that board later? I can also click this share button and invite people into the board. So I could click on Katie and I could click share, or I could get a copy link and I can toggle here on what I want people to be able to do with this link. So I'm going to walk you through how I set up my Conbon board and what each of these different columns means. So this very first column here, resources. This is one that I put in because I, Shawntay, like this feature, this column. You're not going to find this on most Conbon boards, but as instructional designers and project managers who are dealing with a lot of different assets, I find that having a resource column is very easy. So I put like all my links that I need quick access to, like branding guidelines, if there's a Slack channel, a Google Drive folder, or a Dropbox folder, or maybe there is a project brief or something like that that I need to be able to refer to often, I will put that into my resources file over here. Then the next column that we have is a backlog. So everything that I'm talking to you about right now, when we're talking about using Trello, this Kanban-style board, is related to the Agile framework, okay? So these things, these different column distinctions are Agile. So whenever we're talking about backlog, a backlog is just like a big, huge container holder bucket for all the different to-dos that you have on a project. So at the beginning of a project, you would go through the process and the effort of listing out every single thing that you know that you need to do in a project, which sounds intimidating and it sounds very time consuming. It's not, once you start doing it and you really start breaking it down into its really niche parts, it's not intimidating, but it is time consuming. It could take several hours to literally list out every single thing. But remember what I said before, I create my board and then I use that board as a starting place for future boards. So like the heavy lifting, I only have to do the first time if it's a project that is a repeatable type of project. So for me as an instructional designer, building a course is a repeatable project. Building a storyline course is a repeatable project. Building an instructional video is a repeatable project. There are certain things within that get repeated each and every single time. So I could just copy that board and use it as a starting point and then customize it for that particular project. So again, backlog, that's listing every single thing that I know that needs to happen in order to call that project done by whatever date that it needs to be done. Then this next column is called our sprint backlog. When we're working in Agile, we're working in time boxes, and these time boxes are called sprints. Sprints vary by organization. They can be a 1-week sprint, they can be a 2-week sprint, they could be a 4-week sprint. There's not a right or wrong. It is whatever works for the organization and the amount of work that they have and the type of work that they have. I have one client that works in a 1-week sprint. I like to work in a 2-week sprint because that means that it's less planning. I just have to do the planning cycle every couple of weeks and the backlog grooming every couple of weeks versus having to do that every single week. So our sprint backlog, this is where we list everything that we are committing to finish during that time box. That time box, again, could be 1 week, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever. So for our session today, for this Accelerated ID series, we're going to call a sprint a 2-week period. So anything that gets moved into the sprint backlog, I am saying that I am planning to finish that by the end of this 2-week period. And a time box usually starts on a Monday and ends on a Friday. So for this sprint, it would start on Monday, July 18th, this past Monday, and it would end next Friday, July 29th. And anything that I put into this sprint backlog, I am saying that I will finish in that time period. In progress means that it is actively being worked on. So I would drag a card here, and if it's in progress, that means that something is happening to it. The work has started. Then I have this QA assess review. So this is a quality assurance check, or it's a Shawntay review. So like the different members of my team would move their card here, and then I would review that work if I was the reviewer on that. You'll see here in just a second that we have an additional column in the next Conbon board or the next Trello board that I'm going to show you that says client review. So for my freelancers out there, you might want to have a separate column where you drag cards whenever you have moved something for your client to review, so that you have this easy way of tracking what the status of that is. And then whenever it is finished, you can drag that card to done, right? And if you want to know how you could create that additional column that I was just mentioning, what you do is you come over here and you can see that it says add another list. Just click on it, and I could literally just type in client review and add list. And there it is. Well, it doesn't really make sense for it to be after the done, so I want to drag it to before the done. So I can just pick it up, click on it, and drag it, and it's finished. Other things that I can do here before I go and show you one of our client boards is you can change this background. So if you don't like this particular background that I have of a jellyfish, you can click on show more. And let's see, I can click on change background. I can click on photos. I can have a mountain with a summit, and then voila, I've got this new background. So whenever you make your own copy of this board, you can customize it to whatever background that you want to have. Okay. You can also create little cards or images for each of these headers if you wanted to do that. Also over here, you can see that we have notifications. So if I click here, you can see that somebody joined Trello on my recommendation. So that just means that they clicked on the link that we provided. I can go down, I can see that Jennifer has put something into review for me to review. I can also see that she moved something to done. So you have all these great notifications here. Another thing that I really like about this tool is that it has its own app. So I'll have that notification right here on my phone so that I can keep up with my projects no matter where I am. All right, so the next thing that I want to do is show you an old client board. So I'm going to move over here to my scrub client board. Okay, so you can see that over here to the left, I have my resources. Again, those are my quick hits, the things that I want to have easy access to while I'm working on a project. So I've got resources. I'm going to link to my Slack. I'm going to link to my Google folder. I want to link to some examples. This project we were building for a client who was building for their client, had very specific due dates that were driving the project. So we captured all those here. Backlog, as you may recall, that is the list of things that I know I need to do but haven't been prioritized. Sprint backlog, that's my commitment of what I'm going to finish in 2 weeks. In progress means it's active. Under Shawntay review means that I need to review it. Anything under client review means that the client has it and they are reviewing it, and done means it's done. So as you can see, there were quite a few different pieces in this project. And I really didn't break it down as much as I could have or should have, but I had a lot of very experienced people on the team that could just take these different pieces and work them. So backlog. One of the things that I told you was that this was a collaborative tool. So what I want to do is I'm going to tag Katie so that I can give her the opportunity to tag me here in just a second and tag me back. You can very quickly see that this card right here, if you look at module 17, content and assets, you see that little bubble with 21. That means there are 21 different comments related to this card. So I can very easily see that somebody has made a comment. Over here, if I look under Shawntay review, this module 19 card has 13 comments in it, right? So that's just a very quick way for me to assess if there are comments. Now, at the very beginning of this, I told you that this style of board is a way for you to very quickly visualize the status of different elements of your project. So for example, if I said, hey, what is the status of module 9? Well, you could open this board, you could scan it. You're probably scanning right now, and you can see that module 9 is listed under client review. So that means the work is already done. It's already been through our internal QA process. It's already been through the Shawntay review. Now it's sitting with the client. So just by scanning, without asking anyone, I know exactly what the status of that module is. What about module 4? Where's module 4? If you look at the board, you will find that located under backlog. Backlog means it hasn't been prioritized yet. It means no work has started on it yet. So I quickly, just by seeing it, know what the status is. I don't even have to click into the card to know. I know it's not started. But if I am looking for draft 1 that's due on July 2nd, I can find that under progress, right? So I know it's actively being worked on right now. If I want to know the status of module 18, I can find that under done. So I know it has had all the pieces done. It's been through the QA review. It's been through the client review. It's been signed off by the client, and now it sits in done. And whenever I'm saying client, because we are an agency, you can think of client in the sense of a stakeholder, a subject matter expert, your boss at work, okay? All right, so module 4, what's going on with module 4? I want to take advantage of this online collaboration feature where I can tag people. I guess I should first make sure that Katie's on the board. I didn't even check that. Yep, Katie's on this board. All right, so I want to tag Katie. I'm going to click save, and now you can see that I have tagged Katie. So Katie's going to get a notification that there is a question for her so that she is able to then come back and respond to me. And we can have this back and forth dialogue where she is able to give me updates or to let me know it's still on hold or whatever it is. So she said, yes, Shawntay, set to begin work on July 22nd. Now I'm going to hold my phone up here for you too, because like I said, there is a Trello app. So you can see at the very top of my notifications on my phone that it says Katie has mentioned me on the card module 4 update, and it gives the name of that project. So I've got this notification. I can respond back via the app, or I can give her a little emoji. So I'm just going to come over here and I'm going to give her a little thumbs up, and that's good to go, right? Other things that you can do in here, you can put due dates. So if I click into a card, you can see some of the exchanges here. I can select dates and I can select a due date. Again, because we're working in a 2-week sprint and the end of the sprint is July 29th, I'm going to click on July 29th and I'm going to click save, and voila, now I have a due date here. So you can do this for all of the cards. All right. Also wanted to comment that you can do some labeling here. So I created a couple of colored labels, visuals, because again, the Conbon board is meant to be a visual depiction, right? So if you use labels in these colors can add another layer of transparency and communication. So what I did, if you click on it, you can see that I labeled green e-learning. And if you come over here to this purple, you can see that I labeled it instructional design. You can label these things whatever you want. You can change them by clicking into the card, clicking labels, and I could click edit and I could name it whatever I want it to be, right? Okay, so I'm just going to click save and I'm going to get out of there because I don't want to make any changes. All right. So again, this style is meant to be visual, so I can very easily see. Now I'm going to show you how to move some cards around here. So I know that I told you about how you physically move them, but let me give you some context behind how they get moved. So for example, let's say that module 4 did get prioritized for the sprint. You just pick it up and you move it there. It sits in the sprint backlog until you actually start working on it. So the commitment is that by the end of this 2-week sprint, I will have this work done. One of the beautiful things about agile project management is that it eliminates micromanagement. So if you work in an environment where it's micromanaging or it feels like micromanagement, like, hey, Katie, is this done? Hey, Katie, when's that going to be done? Hey, Katie, where is this? Hey, Katie, right? Like where you're just constantly being asked these things. Well, with a Kanban board, you can literally be like, oh yeah, my project board is updated, right? So I oftentimes will drop the link back to the board when people ask me about a status update. I drop the link to the board because you can literally click this share button, grab a link or copy it and share it so that people can see the status. So if I were to say, hey, Katie, what's the status of module 4? She could share the project board back and say, hey, Shawntay, I've got the board completely updated so that you're able to see everything as we're progressing through the project. Module 4 is in sprint. Like she'll go ahead and tell me where it is, but she very nicely and politely lets me know that I can self-serve with this type of board. So once module 4 begins work, then we move it into in progress. In progress means that some action has been taken on it. Then whenever it's finished, it goes to Shawntay review. Usually I get tagged at this point so that I know that I get a notification that the card is there. I go in, I do my review. If I have feedback, then I move the card back into the sprint backlog so that they can reprioritize the work. If it's a really huge ask, then we might move it back into the backlog for a future sprint. Then once the work is done, it has been edited, the feedback has been applied, it comes back to review, I review it again. Assuming there's no further work, then that card gets drug into client review. The client reviews it. If the client has feedback, we move it either back into the sprint backlog or into the backlog, depending on what the ask is and what the timing is. Then from there, we do that work again, and then it will usually come back into Shawntay review just for the quality assurance. Then it goes to the client review. Again, client reviews. If it's done, it moves into done. So that's kind of the cycle that how we manage these tasks throughout Trello. Okay, so I'm just going to very, very quickly show you some personal boards. So I told you earlier that I used to be the volunteer lead for our holiday park lighting event here in our town. So I would reuse this board every single year. So at the end of the project, everything would be done, but then I would move it back to the to-do. I took out backlog because whenever I was working with volunteers, they're like, what? What's a backlog? What's a sprint? So I had to relabel the headings that made sense and worked with the people that I was working with. So as you're using these boards for volunteer projects, or if you're involved in any community organizations, you may have to adjust the headings where you're not using that sprint lingo because not everybody understands that. But again, you know, I love my project resources column. So I have that. I have my to do. I would do this week, done. And then I had like a post event, like debrief or actions that have to be taken. Another one that I created was a goals board. If you work in an organization that has annual goals and quarterly goals, then you know that you have your goals for the year, and then you have your 90-day sprints or your 90-day rocks, your big rocks that you're responsible for. So I had created a board where I used to track these things. All right, so that's a lot of information. That is our crash course in Trello. I know it was very fast and a lot of information coming at you like a water hose. But I will say that with any technology, most of the time, the best way to learn it is just to fail forward through it by trying some different things. You can't break it. So get in there, play with it, try some different things. And, you know, post any questions that you have in our Facebook group because we would be glad to answer those for you. So follow us on our Instructional Design Company YouTube channel. We put all of our free trainings out there for everyone. Help us share the love. You guys all have a great day.